The Priestess's Heir and Wings, Chapter 1. The early dawn's soft embrace brought a golden glow to the vast forest, the sun's rays filtering through the canopy like liquid light. A symphony of nature greeted the morning, birds trilling in the distance, the soft hum of bees, and the delicate rustle of leaves swaying in the breeze. The scent of freshly bloomed oaks and maples mingled in the air, filling it with earthy sweetness. Near the forest's edge, a cliff overlooked the sprawling grasslands, offering a panoramic view of Elise's quaint town, nestled peacefully against the backdrop of the encroaching sea. Elise stood at the cliff's edge, her hand brushing aside the young cherry saplings. She gazed down at the town, her heart heavy. "It seems so small," she whispered, her voice barely audible against nature's lullaby. Below, the twin rivers, Whittengold and Greenwood, flowed through the town, their waters swollen from weeks of rain. A towering dam stood proudly, a symbol of the villagers' ingenuity, harnessing the relentless flow of water to sustain their lives. In the distance, villagers were already at work, fishing along the banks, crossing the southern bridge, and carrying out their daily routines. A small black dog, Zuzu, dashed through the scene, a blur of energy. Elise smiled despite herself, knowing full well that the mischievous dog had a task to fulfill. The branches of the saplings snapped back suddenly, causing Elise to lose her footing and tumble to the ground. She winced as dirt smeared her hands, bruises already forming from the impact. Despite the discomfort, a determined glint sparked in her eyes. She wasn't here for a stroll. She was on a mission to find the ebony roots of a 100-year-old tree. With renewed resolve, she made her way toward the mouth of the river. Along the way, she paused to fill her canteen at a small lake, savoring the coolness of the water as she splashed it on her palms. As she gazed into the reflection, she noticed how the summer sun had bronzed her once pale skin, and her braided hair had taken on a wild, untamed look, a testament to her time spent in the forest. Her moment of introspection was interrupted by Zuzu's excited bark. The little dog bounded up to her, his tail wagging furiously. "Oh, Zuzu, you startled me!" Elise laughed, crouching down to tussle with him. The playful dog seized her sack, tugging with all his might. "Hey, give that back!" Elise protested, but with a sudden jerk, Zuzu released the sack and sent her tumbling backward into the lake. She spluttered as she emerged, her clothes now soaked and covered in algae. "Zuzu, look what you've done," she chided, though her voice held no real anger. Despite the mishap, Elise's focus remained sharp. The ebony roots were still out there, and she would find them. With Zuzu at her side, she pressed on, determination flooding her veins. As they approached a fallen tree near a river bend, Elise's heart skipped a beat. Could this be the place? But as she rounded the corner, a familiar figure appeared, Eden, waiting for her. Their paths had converged once again. "Come on, Zuzu. Let's hope Eden had better luck than we did," Elise said with a teasing smile, urging the dog forward. Zuzu barked happily and bounded ahead, his energy infectious. Eden greeted them with a knowing smile. "Hey, Zuzu, Samson sent you, I presume," she said, crouching to scratch the dog behind his ears. Elise pulled herself up with a sigh, attempting to hide the wetness on her clothes. "How did it go?" she asked, glancing at her friend. Eden grinned. "I found one deeper in the woods near the mountain walls. What about you?" Elise sighed. "Got a little distracted, sorry." Eden chuckled. "No need to apologize. I gathered more than enough. We should head back, though. I promised Mother we'd be back before supper." Reluctantly, Elise nodded. Today was no ordinary outing. The root they sought was the final ingredient for a remedy Lady Ymir needed to treat old Jairus, who had been attacked on his way home. Though Ymir had crafted an antidote, without the root, it wouldn't be complete. As they retraced their steps, Elise reflected on the thrill she always felt when listening to old Jairus' tales of far-off lands. His stories of adventure, though tempered with age, never failed to captivate her. The sun was beginning its descent, casting a warm, golden light over the forest. Elise glanced at Eden, who was carefully tending to a broken twig, securing it back into place with a piece of cloth. A gentle breeze stirred the trees, almost as if the forest itself was thanking her for her care. "I just love the scent of the evening forest," Eden said, her voice soft, almost reverent. "I suppose," Elise replied absent-mindedly, still trying to free herself from the thorns that clung to her sleeves. Eden smiled knowingly. If you truly let yourself merge with the forest's essence, Elise, you'll start to feel its rhythms, its life cycle unfolding. Elise hesitated, trying to follow Eden's advice. She closed her eyes, but all she could sense was the overwhelming beauty around her. The deep green of the evergreens, the vibrant colors of the scarlet canary flowers, the distant rush of the river. Merging with the forest, however, seemed beyond her grasp. Eden, however, seemed at ease with the forest, moving effortlessly as though it were an extension of herself. Her golden hair glowed in the sunlight as she glided through the underbrush. "Come on, Elise, you're falling behind," Eden called out, her voice laced with affection. Elise hurried to catch up, feeling the weight of her damp clothes slowing her down. They emerged from the forest and approached the old ruins, an abandoned place that always stirred curiosity in Elise. While most travelers avoided it, fearing the spirits said to haunt it, Elise felt a strange thrill at the thought of exploring. The ruins had once been grand long ago, before time had worn them down. Towering pillars once stood near the gates, adorned with intricate carvings depicting the legendary tale of the great priestess Heir, a story known to all, even to the youngest children. Lady Ymir often told them of a time when 7 worlds had converged, known as the Void. Each world had its own portal, its own doorway, and when this world faced destruction, a young priestess had emerged as its savior, sacrificing her powers to seal the doors forever. Heir, the great priestess of the north, had saved them all. Elise often marveled at the story, captivated by the bravery of the young girl who had sealed away the doors. Lady Ymir had also spoken of a hidden cavern, a secret place only accessible on moonless nights when one of the rivers would reveal the path. For centuries, the priestesses of the north had guarded it, prepared to defend against the world's convergence. Yet no one had ever found it. Many doubted the legend, but Ymir believed otherwise, asserting that the rivers themselves, like all living things, possessed souls with their own desires. Heir had freed the maidens from their eternal duty when she sealed the doors, becoming the last priestess, until Eden had been named her successor. Elise ran her fingers over the weathered pillars, imagining the power of the great priestess. Her gaze lingered on a carving of the winged guardian, a mighty creature left behind by Heir, its wings grand and its sword capable of both destruction and salvation. These stories, passed down by Lady Ymir, were all Elise had ever known. She had been raised alongside Eden, who was believed to be the reincarnation of Heir, and Elise had always held that belief. But Eden did not share that view. "Remember when the kids used to call you Turtle Girl?" Eden asked, breaking the silence. Elise grimaced. "Yes, 'cause I could never win at tag." Eden smiled sadly. "Well, that's how I feel when they call me Heir's reincarnation." From that day forward, Elise stopped seeing Eden as the priestess of legend. She was simply Eden, her closest friend, her sister. Lost in thought, Elise hadn't noticed how far behind she had fallen. Eden and Zuzu were already nearing the bridge when Eden turned to call back to her, halting the eager dog. Elise quickly caught up, stealing a glance back at the ruins. For a moment, she thought she saw a figure in white, moving among the ancient pillars, waving frantically. When they finally reached the village, Lady Ymir was waiting at the gate. Her eyes flicked over Elise's empty sack, then softened as she gazed at Eden. Wordlessly, she took the bag from Eden's hand and headed towards their small hut in the northwest corner of the village. "Well, that went better than expected," Elise sighed with relief. Eden looked toward the hut with concern. "She must really need those roots if she didn't scold you for once." Before Elise could reply, a figure approached. Samson. "Good morning, Lady Eden Elise," he called, his gaze lingering on Eden, his sun-kissed skin and windswept hair giving him an almost ethereal look. "Good morning, Samson. Any news of old Jairus?" Eden asked, her tone laced with concern. "He's better," Samson replied, a smile tugging at his lips. "Lady Ymir's remedy helped steady his fever. He's in good hands. Here, I brought you some blackberries I found while fishing." He handed Eden a small sack, then added with a sheepish grin, "Of course, Elise, you can have some too." "Thank you, Samson," Eden said, her smile warm as she accepted the gift. Samson's cheeks flushed as he gave a short bow and turned to leave, Zuzu bounding after him. Elise watched him go, then leaned in with a mischievous grin. "Do you think he has feelings for you?" Eden's expression softened, but her voice was firm. That can't be. You know our roles, Elise. Elise sighed, the weight of their destinies settling over her. Eden, the priestess with a future laid out before her. Elise, the loyal servant. Well, at least we get to enjoy fresh berries, Elise said with a light laugh, popping one into her mouth. The two girls walked toward their home, the sun dipping lower behind the mountains. Their small cabin stood next to the healing hut, where the rhythmic sounds of Lady Ymir's work filled the evening air. Elise entered first, the door creaking softly as she stepped into the dark, cozy space. The fire crackled in the stove, casting a warm glow across the room as she began preparing their late afternoon tea. Lady Ymir's humming could be heard from the other room, a familiar and comforting sound. Elise took a deep breath, preparing for another quiet evening of waiting, hoping, and wondering what the future might hold.